I went to the chapel one day. I went to chapel, and it is so great. It is not church. It just is really delightful. And they introduced me, and everybody said hi and stuff. And I was just a visitor, but it was just very welcoming and very lovely. On that day, they told a story about a soldier who died in the First World War. So they said, as you leave chapel today, look at the wall. On the wall, there's a wooden cross, and that's the cross that marked his grave when he died on this day in World War I. I mean, this is a stunning thing, you're like, really? And so you walk out, and sure enough, there's the cross. So I asked him, I asked the chaplain, I said, well, how did you get this cross? And he said, well, the family had it, and they donated it to the school. I mean, the layers of this are so complex. The family donated this thing to the school. Obviously, the school is this huge part of this person's life. But then for the people today, as Stuart Granger says, the kids, whether they want to know it or not, come to know that they're sitting in a place that many other people have sat before. And it just gives you a beautiful sense of gravity that of your responsibility within this space to behave well and to enjoy it and to understand how special it is. When I visited one day, I said, can you take me into the headmaster's residence? And I didn't intend him to. I didn't actually think he could. And he said, yeah. And he takes off. He starts trotting to the headmaster's residence. It's a standalone building. And I'm like, no, I was just kidding. And he's like, no, we can go in if you want. Because of the Master Key program, the key actually would go in. He actually would have taken me in there. And I think everything about that was charming. It was fun, but it said a lot about the feel of the place, that they really have a sense of trust in this guy that's showing them around. He was in grade 9. He was allowed to show me absolutely anything. And not all schools are like that. I think the things that people should look for in this case is that the boarding population is 60%. It's a majority. So this is really a boarding school with day students rather than a day school with boarding students. And I think one of the things that makes it a bit different than some other schools as well is that it's not in the middle of a city. So it doesn't have these porous boundaries. It's a community that really is self-sufficient. And when you're there, you really know that you're there. And all your needs are being met right there, including social life and getting outdoors and sports and having an active lifestyle. And the students really see it in exactly that way. But I think that's what makes it unique. It's a real community with all the aspects of a real community all happening right there. Obviously, the junior students are not boarders, but for even them, there is this value of being in a boarding school because, again, they arrive and they really feel that they're in this little village that is their village where all their needs are being met. Everything that's available to the boarding students is available to them. They can be on campus during the weekends. They can take part in everything. I think the junior students do benefit from the culture that's been created there, and the boarding experience is the foundation of that. And I think if you've done a number of tours, you know that some of them are quite programmed. You have a student or a member of the staff who's taking you around, and they're meant to show you different things, and you get a sense that there's even a script that they've learned. And that is not the case at Trinity. You get this student who is just delighted to show off what he thinks is pretty awesome. Even just walking through the hallways or walking through Cerny Commons, people they'll notice that you're not from there, and they'll say hi. And they're also very keen to show off what they see is theirs, and are happy to show it off in that way. Well, there's different ways to think about tradition and history. And I think it's true that if you were to quiz individual students on the history and the traditions of the school, they may not know. They may not know the details. They know that it's old. But I think Stuart Granger talks about how the tradition informs the work that they do. And I think that's the better way to think about it. It has this long history of behaving in a certain way, of comporting ourselves in a certain way. That's the important part of tradition, those values that have been there for a long time and that are still expressed today. And they're really just like in the air, in a sense. It's just how the school has always behaved. There are two specific sports events that happen every year in the life of the school that have been going for a very long time. And one of them is the cricket match they have each year with UCC, and it's been mounted for over 150 years. And the other one is the Oxford Cup, and it's in fact the longest consistently held running event in North America. It predates the Boston Marathon. And so these things, they just signal to that long history, and people have a sense that they're participating in something much larger than themselves. The tradition is very alive. And again, it's a long-standing tradition in those values of empathy and kindness and curiosity. It gives the students a sense that they have a responsibility to continue these things. They're fun, they're interesting, and if not for the next generation, they wouldn't continue. And that's an interesting aspect of tradition as well. It's not what's happened in the past, but how do you contribute to it? What do you bring to it? They gain that sense of responsibility that what I do reflects on this institution and contributes to this institution. In some schools you go and there are endowments made by wealthy families and their names are on the buildings, and that's great. That's important in any institution. But in this one, very famously, Louis Cerny, he was at the school on financial aid himself, and he went on and became very successful. And he's given a lot to the school. And you can point to some of it. It's the building, the Cerny Commons, which unites some of the buildings that were there. And it's a beautiful environment where kids kind of gather. And but he also is more, I think, substantially contributed to the financial aid program. I think the students know that this is where it comes from. This isn't kind of the titans of industry have endowed the school. They know that the community has endowed the school in different ways. And there's something powerful that comes from knowing that. We think of diversity in one certain way often when we talk about diversity, but it can be many, many different things. It can be a diversity of interest, it could be a financial diversity, it can be a geographic diversity, and on you go. And Trinity makes it a point of having all of those diversities represented. They want it to be accessible to every student that should be there. Every student that can benefit from that environment in very specific ways. So it is a very international school, and they bring that forward. And you look in the flags hanging in the dining hall give you a sense of there's people from all over the world here, and that's very exciting. But there's also that sense that there's people from all different situations, and maybe it's not as apparent, but it's understood. You just do get a sense that everybody's aware that there's a lot of people that make up this community. But it really creates a sense of diversity within the student body that is really very so important to it. Is there a typical student at TCS? I'd like to say that in my experience of the students that I met, that they're all very centered and outgoing. But I know for a fact from having spoken to some of them that they didn't arrive that way. And some of them arrive very shy. Some of them they gravitate to this environment because of what it is, and that they are sort of outgoing and go-getters and all that, but not all of them are. There was one student I spoke to, and I actually asked that, and she said, I was not this outgoing, I was not this engaged when I came, but she just felt very comfortable there. And I think that's true. I think students, they're not cowed by the environment. It really is a supportive environment in every way. Go to the cafeteria. It'll tell you a lot about a school. You'll see who's interacting with whom. You'll see if they're even talking to each other. You'll see if it's cross-generational. You'll see the relationship between the faculty and the students. Is it playful? Is it not? And drink it all in. If you go to a school where all the faculty is sitting in a different area of the room for lunch, not interacting with the students, that's not necessarily a good sign about the culture. The flip side is you'll see, as at Trinity, you'll see the faculty walking around, visiting the tables. They'll be having lunch, and it's not like they're there to see people and point them out or whatever, but it's just that kind of very free-flowing communication. And often you get a sense of, this is a place that I really just want to hang out. And I think that's a great feeling. And I think that's a feeling that parents and students should have. It does feel like a window onto the world because of the students that are there from all over the world. And because of the flags in the cafeteria that represent all the students. So you do get a sense that it's this jumping off point to a much bigger world. Academic achievement can mean different things to different people. And when you say to somebody, what does success mean to you? And this is a question that I think parents should always ask at a school. The answer you get will say a lot. The answer you'll get at Trinity is not success means to us that we send the kid off having earned a scholarship or something, or having achieved certain grades. Success is about more than that. But how the school promotes success is interesting as well. Yes, academic achievement is absolutely valued, but it's valued because there are these signs around the students every day that they see. Kids wear lapel pins that show different things that they've won. On the walls of the cafeteria are the names of all those students who have won awards or served as student leaders over decades and decades and decades. And it's that ethos of academia that I think is more important than what marks do you get. It's cool to be academic. You gain a certain amount of social capital from being involved and being academic and being curious and taking part in all aspects of the life of the school. Part of the academic environment, I think, is that students feel empowered to follow whatever curiosity they have. So if that means they want to work ahead through the AP program, they can do that. If they want to follow other interests, they can. But whether it's within the capstone program or just generally, the school really prizes, project-based learning, hands-on learning, follow your curiosity. If you have a curiosity, bring it forward and let's see what we can do with it. And quite often they do a lot with it. I think it's the only school that I've ever seen this at. If you achieve a certain mark, then you no longer have to sign in to study, to the study times. You're free to study as you will. You've demonstrated that you can be successful and get those marks. And once you get them, there's like, okay, you go ahead and do it. And as long as they do, they never have to sign into study hall or anything. But they fall beneath that mark, and then they have to show up. And I think that's a really interesting way of doing it. I think it's rewarding a student's effort and saying, yep, you got it. And for the others, it's a way of saying, yeah, we'll help you out. People come in as young people. They haven't developed yet. This is a developmental phase in their lives. And I think the staff, the faculty really look at it that way. You can't judge a person because they're succeeding or not succeeding. It's their job to support them and to get them to whatever it is, that place of independence or that quality of character. These are things that we all have to learn, and I think young people are in the process of learning that, and the school really sees it in that way. The kids that go there, very clearly, and you look around when you're there, they really clearly love it, because I think of the way the school is led. It's all top down, and love of learning, and let's do well, and let's get good marks and all that stuff. But let's have a good laugh too, and let's enjoy each other's company. And that comes right from the top. If parents have an opportunity, they should speak to Stuart Granger, and I think he makes himself available. And he just has a way of speaking about the school that I think is just very instructive. And he talks about those values and those traditions being the real foundation for the life of the school, of being empathetic and being curious and being academically oriented, but also being a well-rounded individual. He certainly has his hands on the reins, and it's not about just go and let's have a laugh every day. But his leadership style is to give people the latitude and the space that they need to do what they want to do. So they feel empowered to really develop programs and to teach in their own way. And you ask them what they hope to send the kids out into the world with. And it's not about the degree. That's kind of a given. I think all these kids are going to get their degree, and they're going to do well. But what else can they send them out in the world with? Can they send them out with a joy of learning and with having made some great friends that are lifelong friends, and just help them be more? And I think that's the objective of the school. I think it's one of these schools, and it's not true for every school, but there are some where you just think, can I live here? Can I stay here? Do I have to go? And it was just so delightful to spend time there and to know these people And I sense that students feel that as well. Maybe not in the course of one day, but I know for a fact that they do. They do. That's the take home. This is like kind of like, it's just a delightful place. It demands a lot of you. You know, kids know that they need to be responsible and that there's something required of them. But there's also room to breathe. There's room to relax. You're not being pushed at every minute of the day. And it's just that balance that they've really hit it. This feature review has been published as a book, and it's also available online at ourkids.net.